Good day. Welcome to the Cory Morgan Show. We're creeping up on Christmas now. I don't know if I think you can kind of see it through the windows behind me. It looks like winter's returning with a vengeance. It's supposed to get pretty harsh way out there on the prairies, and we're getting a little bit of it over here in the foothills. Ugh, I despise this season, but there's no avoiding it. What are we going to do? Maybe when we separate and we promote enough climate change, we'll warm things up and Alberta can have a tropical winter. Till then, we just have to suck it up and endure it. All right, let's see what we've got coming up. Lise Merle is going to be coming on in a little while. She's the author of the best-selling children's book, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. If you wonder why the hell I'm interviewing a children's book author, well, actually, Lise does work with Rebel Media as well, and it is a great children's book, but it's got some, messaging in it that I guess you would call atypical, considered what's supposed to be politically correct these days and whatnot. So we'll have a good conversation with her. The show is live. Make sure to get those comments, questions in there, and I see them all. I don't necessarily read them all out. Discuss things with each other. Keeps things lively. Just keep things somewhat civil. Leave the rudeness to me. I'm good at it. All right, let me start with some of that. I'll start on a light issue. Let's talk about racial policies. Let me list some proposed national policies and just think of how Canada would be if these were imposed, okay? So imagine if we abolished the Indian Act and removed special legal status for Indigenous people, and then terminated existing treaties and transferred federal responsibility for Indigenous affairs to provinces. What if we eliminated what's called Indian status and assimilated Indigenous people into mainstream Canadian society as equal citizens? How about if we converted reserve land by turning reserve land into private property that could be sold? And then we could dissolve what was called the Indian Affairs Department and close all federal departments responsible for Indigenous issues. Do these proposals sound extreme or unreasonable or unworkable? I dug every one of those out from a policy document called the White Paper, created in 1969 by none other than Pierre Trudeau and Jean Chrétien. Unfortunately, while Trudeau stood strong with most of this terrible policies he imposed upon Canada, he folded like a cheap suit with the White Paper, and now we're all paying the price. Look, if those policies proposed in the White Paper had been implemented 56 years ago, Canada would be a stronger, more united country. Instead, Indigenous people live in misery on reserves in a form of racial apartheid while constant pandering to the Indigenous industry is cratering the Canadian economy. To be a truly modern democratic nation is to eschew all race-based policies forever. We must take a step back and look at the primitive absurdity of thinking we can have a functional nation when we have different sets of laws and policies that apply to different people based on the color of their skin. Nations have fought wars to end race-based policies, yet Canada is entrenching them further and decries opponents of racial policies as being racists. It's a rather gross irony. How far must we go with this ludicrous system before admitting it can never succeed? We got to start measuring policies by outcome rather than intent, and the outcomes of every race-based policy in Canada are failing. I mean, Canada set up separate sentencing guidelines for Indigenous offenders, along with alternative means of incarceration. What do we get as a result? Crime rates among the Indigenous have skyrocketed, and the number of Indigenous victims of crime have skyrocketed. Funds have been poured into Indigenous business ventures. As a result, Indigenous businesses have a terrible success rate, and those that do succeed usually only do so because they specialize in government contracts. We've set up separate educational systems and set up different bars for Indigenous people to acquire degrees and diplomas. As a result, the education level of Indigenous people lags well below non-Indigenous and is sinking. Extra funding's been poured into healthcare measures for Indigenous people. As a result, they suffer from more chronic health issues than anybody else and die younger than non-Indigenous people on average. In Alberta, for example, Indigenous men die 19 years younger, I'm not misspeaking, 19 years younger than non-Indigenous men. That stat alone should make people understand how broken the system is. Grants have been given to reserves to take care of child services. Well, foster and emergency child care services are disproportionately populated by Indigenous kids to the point of crisis. Countless programs in both the public and private sectors have been formed to offer preferential hiring to Indigenous people. Despite this, they're among the most chronically unemployed people in Canada. There just aren't enough government jobs to really cut into that number. Due to there being no written language for Indigenous people, the courts have enshrined oral history as being credible when it is anything but. This has led to some of the insane rulings on land claims and fostered the Kamloops residential school child burial hoax that led to the burning and vandalism of over 100 churches. Canada is now fast becoming a total economic basket case as the Eastern manufacturing industries are collapsing if they don't get massive subsidies, and the resource-based industries that used to pay all those subsidies for them are hamstrung by false veto authority held by Indigenous bands. The nation is becoming an investment pariah while British Columbia is castrating its real estate industry through potentially violating property rights with land settlements offered to indigenous bands. In short, nobody's winning. Indigenous people are being held back and infantilized with Canada's race-based system. It's taken great people and led them into a socioeconomic catastrophe of dependency and dysfunction. Meanwhile, those who have to pay all the bills are running out of ways to make money to do it. The solution is actually simple, yet difficult to implement. All race-based policies must end. No modern nation can function effectively when people hold different statuses under the law due to their bloodlines. The only question is time. How long will Canada wait? And how bad will things become before finally we're forced to realize that race-based policies are always wrong and must end? So you won't hear this often out of me, guys, but let's follow Pierre Trudeau's advice and make everybody equal under the law at last. Because right now it's crap. All right. Well, that's what's got me started today. Let's see what else happened in the news. Dave,
Cory,
something wrong with your glasses?
Yeah, I got myself new glasses last night. I can finally see you.
Oh, well, sorry about that. Then.
Or see right through you, as the case may be. It's nasty outside.
Yeah, it's gross. I'm supposed to speak at an event in Vulcan tonight, but we'll see.
My daughter lives in that area, and the roads are supposed to be pretty bad.
Yeah, prairie areas, I mean, they love them, but boy, when the wind blows the snow across them, they can be a little rough on the highways. We'll see.
It's going to be tough on Jane when she has to go to the creek to pick up water tonight.
I know. I haven't got an update from her yet. Just for those who don't know, my water system failed. We live rurally, and I got up this morning to no water in the taps. Brushing my teeth with water out of the coffee maker.
I thought there was a weird smell around here.
Jane is tasked with trying to figure out what's going on so we can have things like toilets and such when I get home. Or maybe Vulcan might look more appealing.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Does the Star Trek Museum, do they have a bathroom? Or
I don't
assume
know.
So. It'll probably be closed by the time you get there.
I'll bring a treat to Vulcan.
There you go. Well, but I don't want to sound like a parrot, but it's another busy news day today where we're leading off with a column from Chris Oldcorn on some immigration proposals being put forward by Premier Danielle Smith. The main one being that unless you're an immigrant that's wanted by Alberta, like Alberta can bring in their own immigrants, but they get dumped a lot on by the feds, that unless you're approved by the Alberta government, you will get no welfare services, no health services, no education services, basically making it impossible for non-approved immigrants to move here.
Well, non-working
immigrants, correct.
If the condition of approval is typically employment and self.
You have to be a contributing member of society, and then society looks after you.
Well, come on in if you want to work.
Seems to make sense, doesn't it?
If you don't want to go to Quebec, I mean, that's where our equalization goes anyway.
Yeah, we've got a Quebec story out also on A&W. A&W franchisees down there are saying unless they get an increase in temporary Ford workers, they're going to have to shut down restaurants. Basically, they say the kids, young adults, they don't want to work in the fast food industry anymore, and they need temporary foreign workers.
I don't know how much it comes to the policy or what's best or worst, but I know from owning a pub and restaurant, the next generation does not want to work in the kitchens yet at the same time, people don't want to reach into their wallets and pay for the living wage it would take to drag people out there. So I think some people have to reevaluate what you want. I mean, sure, A&W could hire all Canadian, and some people are screaming, well, just let them hire Canadian. Okay, if you're ready to pay $10 for that little cheeseburger,
yep, that's
the route to go. So it's interesting just to remind people there's cause and effect. If you cut the TFWs, some prices are going to go up.
That's right. This may come as a shock to you, Cory, but we've got a story about corruption in Quebec.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. And involving the newly appointed leader of the Quebec Liberal Party, Pablo Rodriguez. Used to be a member of the Trudeau cabinet and stepped down to run for the job and win just 6 months ago. But the party's been embroiled in a corruption scandal that saw basically members paid to vote, which is somewhat illegal. So he is apparently stepping down this afternoon. We've got a story on Kelowna MLA Gavin Dew. He was sort of thought that he might take a run at the BC Conservative leadership, vacated by John Rustad, but he says that would take him away from his family too much, so he is not going to run. The Liberal government's Islamophobia advisor secretly gave an $80,000 grant to a university's pro-Palestine group. This came about through access to information records dug up by our friends at Blacklock's reporter, and she had initially died or denied, not died. Sorry,
Died of shame, perhaps.
died of
if she had
shame,
any,
maybe. She repeatedly denied ever doing this, and now she's been proven to be not quite telling the truth. And interesting story out of Great Britain, Bournemouth, actually, where lots of my family lives. A guy who posted 2 tweets, I guess X's now, or whatever you want to call them, slamming immigration. This was after a terrorist, or there was a would-be terrorist that killed the 6 people at the Christmas market. He tweeted against immigration twice. They were viewed by a total of 33 people, and he got thrown in the slammer for 18 months.
So I wonder if Premier Smith would get thrown in jail for some of the stuff she said about immigration here in Alberta.
No, I don't think so. But things are way out of control in Great Britain. They're throwing everybody who tweets in the slammer.
Well, you get locked up for tweeting about it, but I mean, if you go and do an illegal protest, you're fine.
Yes, exactly. Or wear a mask on the street and call for the death of Jews. You're okay.
Well, priorities.
Yeah.
Well,
they've got to free criminals in England just to get all the tweeters in there. Make room for them.
And I mean, most of the guys that I know, I'm an example of it. We're just all dorks who play on X and everything anyway. So if you really want boring prison movies and stories, have a bunch of the online geeks filling all those cells rather than the nice hardened criminals we're supposed to enjoy watching.
Exactly. Things are a bit broken.
Yes, that they are. Oh, well, anything else up? Christmas plans this year? What do you
I'm going to head out to the Lower Mainland, my grandson's first Christmas. So very excited about that. But, weather. Floods, getting through the Coquihalla, getting through Highway 1 through Hope to the Lower Mainland could be a bit of a difficulty.
So you're going to drive it?
Well, I need a vehicle to get all my Christmas presents back. All right, because I wouldn't. I'm anticipating a great haul.
Spoil the grandchild. But...
Yeah, but I need room to bring all my presents back.
Oh well, yeah. You don't want to miss out on that.
No. My mom likes to, load me down with things like toilet paper for the year, that sort of stuff.
Important stuff.
I'm
learning about the absence of proper sanitary facilities today.
There you go. Yeah, you've been sort of living in the washroom here at the Western Standard.
I had to make use of the public facility. I don't do that. I'll be in the woods tonight.
Oh, you and the bears.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for the updates. And I offered more updates than you needed, but too damn bad. That's the nature of this show.
Thanks, Cory.
I'll see you after the show. All right. That is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And yes, covering lots of stuff, the good, bad, and then I mentioned the ugly. But the reason we can do that, that's why I got to remind folks, is because you have subscribed. So be sure to get on there, westernstandard.news/subscription. You can get 50% off. I believe there's a special going on right now for Christmas. Check things out, deals on the Western Standard site. Get a gift of a subscription for somebody else. Or I see some people gifting us. Mavros Whistle, a commenter, fired $10 our way. Well, I really appreciate that. And saying the biggest race-based issue right now is the GLADU principles. Merry Christmas, Cory and WS. Thank you. It is a huge one. The GLADU principles are a gross violation of equality and justice. For those unfamiliar with that, I wrote on it recently, actually, in a different publication. But it was a ruling that came through that basically forces judges to take into account the race of the offender and to apply lighter sentences whenever possible to them, specifically indigenous ones, not anybody else. And again, you know what? If it worked and there were very few indigenous people going to jail, very few reoffending, you know what? I'd be all for it. I want what works. But it doesn't work. Since those principles came in, crime rates have gone up. The incarceration rates for indigenous people have gone up. And we're talking 25 years since those things came about, or 30 years, I think. How long do we have to wait to admit, geez, maybe it doesn't friggin' work? I don't know. This is Canada. And we could be waiting a long time. I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for common sense. I'll turn way too purple. I'll just let the usual high blood pressure take care of that for me. So let's get on to something lighter, not so much lighter. This is great. I've been looking forward to this. I've been a guest on a show for her a couple of times, but I've never had her on our show. Lise Merle, a best-selling author of a children's book, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. It's taken things by storm and right up there in the Amazon bestsellers. So let's bring Lise in and chat about this. Moment, there you are. Hey, Merry Christmas, Lise. Welcome to the show.
Well, hello, my darling Cory Morgan, and Merry Christmas to you from a #1 Amazon best-selling author. I mean, I couldn't be more surprised if I tried. Couldn't be more surprised if I tried. You sort of teased on the book, but let's talk about it, Cory Morgan.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, there are, you know, many children's books out there. I mean, lots of people really dream of writing a children's book, and there's some great ones out there that just didn't quite break out of the pack necessarily and turn into #1 on the Amazon list, for crying out loud. What is it that distinguishes Buck the Rainbow Unicorn from the other children's books?
Well, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn is truly a tale and fable for our time at this moment in time. Because if we think about what our children have been exposed to, whether it be in public education, whether it be from public institutions, whether it be from the government of Canada, they have been told an egregious lie as it pertains to gender ideology. And this book confronts that in a way that is age appropriate for little ones, in a way that allows parents to have conversations with their children about these things, and in a way sort of takes things back for us, the common sense, rational conservative parents who have just all acknowledged at the same time that this is not something that we are ever going to support as it pertains to our children.
Yeah, and I see from the live comments, Sheila Gunn Reed is in there watching and has kindly gifted us for Christmas there as well. Thank you, Sheila, and here to cheer on her best friend, the acclaimed LGBTQ2 SAI plus. She forgot the ampersand, so clearly Sheila is intolerant, but he's offering support. Either way, that is fantastic, and I did read it, and you've written it at a level where even I can take this in. It's a brilliant book. And despite there being, realistically, there's a little bit of I guess you could say, a political undertone, but it's positive messaging. It's the kind of messaging we should have in children's books. It's saying, embrace who you are, be real, be realistic about it. Talk with your parents. Don't let peer pressure push you the wrong way.
That's right. And just to really put a fine point on the fact that family is everything. Family is really everything, especially to conservatives. This is the foundation of our civilization. And to encourage parents to bring their children nearer, to have critical conversations with little ones when they're in a really formative part of their development. This book enables all of that. And I've been receiving the most incredible feedback on the book from parents who have been really negatively impacted by this in their lives. Their children have fallen victim to this really caustic, toxic, and damaging ideology. And those parents are hyping the book. Regular parents are hyping the book. Grandparents are sending the book. And the funny thing is, Cory, you will love this detail. So in the book, Cory read the book. And the book was actually written on a typewriter, you guys, from 1948, okay, in 2023. And I just happened to be parked on the Trans-Canada Highway when I did it. Well, if you put trans in your book, then it will soar to and put a rainbow on the cover, okay, a rainbow unicorn on the cover. Amazon is going to make it #1 in the LGBTQIA listings. So thanks so much for that, Amazon. And also, we're #1. Okay, get this, you guys. We are #1 globally for Amazon hot new releases. This is incredible. Every single author you have ever heard of is underneath Buck the Rainbow Unicorn on Amazon right now, which makes my day. But we're also we're a #1 bestseller on Amazon for children's books about self-esteem and self-respect. And so I ask you guys, are we raising our children to have self-esteem and have self-respect? Respect for themselves, respect for their families, respect for our values and beliefs? And if the answer to that is yes, well, then Buck the Rainbow Unicorn is for you.
Yeah, well, and parenting, I mean, it's tough. It's complicated. It's especially when we get issues like this. And what do you do if your child has come home and let's face it, there's some activist teachers out there, there's other individuals, and your child's confused by some of the messaging, but they're not adults to sit at the dinner table and break down and discuss something like this when they're still in a formative place. What better way to sit down with a children's book at night and just kind of lay out page by page, and then you can expand perhaps a little bit of what it's talking about. It's a great way to communicate it on the child's level, because they're not going to listen to a long political diatribe. My kids got sick of that when they were 6 with me.
This is exactly right, because what children are told is you must be kind. You absolutely must be kind. You have no choice. You must be kind. And there is, transphobia is not allowed here, and homophobia is not allowed here, and bigotry is not allowed here. And they're told these messages that have no factual basis in reality. When family is the heart of your life, like it is for mine as a mother of 6 from Saskatchewan, nothing in this book is controversial. This book really promotes the idea that family loves you best and knows you best, and this is a way for us to again just take back our children who have been told a really egregious fib.
Yeah, well, you've kind of been well trained in the family lessons in life. What I caught in that as well is you've been quite prolific in your life in having children. You were a solitary child growing up, so uh,
Mhm.
it takes different communication, smaller families, bigger families, and
Mhm.
things like these books are a great way to bring that across.
Yes, and this book is actually, in addition to parents and grandparents gobbling up this book, telling me that it's necessary, that this is, to continue on this work that I'm doing. Um, Counselors in schools are also buying this book, Cory. Daycares are buying this book. Educators are buying this book. Homeschoolers are buying this book. So that just tells me that there is a real need to have truthful conversations with children, and this book allows you to do that. Yesterday, I got a text from a daycare provider who read it cold, okay, hadn't read it before in her life, received the book, sat down in front of her kids, and she said, at first the boys were like, ugh, a rainbow unicorn. I don't want to listen to a book but there's a plot twist in the book. Okay, guys, there is a plot twist in the book. And when the boys, when the plot twist was revealed to the boys, they were out of their minds excited about the book. Okay, so these are little boys that are like, they see the cover and they're like, I don't want another girl book. And then they realize that there's a message in there for them. So that's just making my life, buddy. It's just making my life that kids are loving it, that senior citizens are loving it, the parents are loving it, and the families are loving it. I mean, I just couldn't be happier.
Yeah, well, and what I liked about it, I mean, you've packed a metaphor, a political message into a book in a sense, but it's all positive. The whole book is positive. It's not saying reject somebody or be mean to somebody or
Mm-mm.
anything of this sort. It's just talking about embracing who you are. I mean,
That's
the
right.
messaging is positive from start to end, which is great.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. And to think that whole entire book came out of a 20-minute session on the side of the Trans-Canada Highway was incredible. Like one page. It took one page. It was about 200 words. It was messy in its writing a little bit, right? Like there are not proper poetry stanzas in the story, but the story is just so good and delicious. And I read it like Cory, I've been reading this story on a piece of paper for 2 years and thinking every time I read it, it just gets better and better. Like I like it more and more. So to see the world responding to it with such positivity is just so gratifying for me. Like, especially, coming from you, it's a pretty big, it's a pretty big compliment.
Well, you brought it down to my
Sorry.
level so I could consume it properly. But so the illustrations, I mean, that's the other aspect. You had the 200 words for quite some time. The illustrations are great, and that helps with kids as well. I mean, that you want to be able to point to things, look to things. They're eye catching and fantastic. How did you have those created?
Well, let me tell you, Cory Morgan, the book is based on, like, it is so Saskatchewan and Alberta coded in the illustrations. Like, there's wild roses for Alberta, and there are prairie lilies for Saskatchewan. And the setting of the book is actually my grandma's farm from 1937 in Hallbright. So I had this old, grainy, black and white photo that we then transformed using AI to illustrate the settings of the book. So what you're actually looking at is my grandma's farm, Hallbright, Saskatchewan, circa 1937. And there's a couple other settings. There's a couple other settings in the book that you'll see as you sort of travel along the story in the book. One of them is a small town rodeo in Saskatchewan, the Arcola Rodeo. One of them is another farm setting. But all of the characters and all of the development were done using AI, which I think is a really happy marriage, considering the poem was written on a typewriter, which was state of the art in 1948 when it was built. Like typewriters were created out of after the war, there was a whole bunch of steel products, right? Like we had this market for steel, and they started making typewriters out of it. So that story came off a machine that was made out of the same stuff as battleships. Okay, so that's on one side. And then on the other side, we have all of the imagery in the book that was created from AI, but from vintage sources. So it's just it's super cool for me to be able to explain to you guys in that way. But I'm delighted that you like the illustrations, Cory. I'm just delighted.
Absolutely. I mean, I know the attention span of kids. It can be difficult. I tried to read them. Atlas shrugged, and they just jumped away from the bed as far as they possibly could. You need to have great things like illustrations to go with the words to keep it interesting and exciting. Yeah. And I'm still chasing them around with the fountainhead now, but all the same, it's just a great children's book. I mean, you didn't just slap something together to make a point or something like that. This is a functional, good, fun, large format. So you could sit there at bedtime or whenever and read through that.
That's exactly what we want to happen. We want kids to have this right beside their bed so that every night before bed, you touch on this. We all had that favorite book growing up that you read so often that the pages got dog-eared and the spine ripped a little bit. And, it was just so well loved and well worn that you didn't even have to read the words to tell the story because it became so familiar. And that's really what I hope for with this book, is that people read it and that it resonates with them, and that it's loved by little children because it's so dearly needed, and they're worth it. They're worth it.
So I do have to ask about some of the negative in a sense. We know it's the world of social media. It's a world of hysterics and accusatory things. Which bad feedback have you been getting? I mean, it sounds like for the most part, it's been fantastic and positive, but I imagine you've had some nutters coming at you on this.
Yeah. They're leaving, the worst of the worst are leaving poor Amazon reviews, calling it all of the predictable names. It's hateful, it's anti-2S, LGBTQIA, it's bigoted, it's all of the things. But the overwhelming majority of reviews are positive reviews from people just like you and I, who believe that children deserve to be told the truth and children deserve to be honored in this way. And so it's great. It's great for families. It's great for anybody that knows a little one. And I even had a guy reach out and tell me that he bought 10 to put in little free libraries. So we're actually like guerrilla marketing this into the atmosphere so that people just in the wild can experience this book too, because it is a really special story. Like, it is a really special story, and one that's really, really important for this moment in time.
Absolutely. And it's fun. I mean, you can read through it. Part of it's just, it's engaging. It's not just rattle through it with the kid. Read it, see if they've got questions, chat back and forth, process it, or as I said, get dog-eared and apply it over time as well. Is that some kind of rainbow unicorn in your background I see back there?
Right here, this guy? That is a rainbow unicorn. I got myself a special balloon to just celebrate a little bit that we have a hot hit on our hands. And I, like, as a literary icon, Cory Morgan, you can claim to have known me before I was a literary icon, but I thought that, spending $12 on a little piece of decoration wasn't outside the norm for this situation.
Well, it complements everything fantastically. And I mean, Amazon, getting to the modern, from typewriter to AI to Amazon. I mean, the days are gone where you have to get in through the old publishing houses to manage to break through into the big bookstores and Chapters or Kohl's if we want to go way back. Yeah. This way you can really get to everybody fast, efficiently, at a good price. It's brilliant. So before I let you go, I mean, that's the main place to get a copy or 10, right? Yes. Amazon?
Yes, Amazon. You can go to bucktherainbowunicorn.com. That's going to direct you straight to Amazon. It is on sale. Buck the Rainbow Unicorn right now is on sale on Amazon for $18. So for $18, you hit click buy, and Amazon immediately sets to printing the book and shipping it, and it will be at your house within 2 days in Canada. So they've made it so easy, and it's really like talk about the German printing press. Like, this is the next level of the German printing press. What they're doing on the Amazon side is kind of spectacular in the way that we can get information to people, but it's super easy to buy. $18 delivered to your door, and a little one or little ones in your life will have a really, really great story to read.
Yeah, well, I Yeah, I don't think Gutenberg envisioned this coming to an end eventually with publishing, but it's great to see real books too. That's the final thing I want to say. As a bookworm, a lover of them, and fighting
Yes,
with the digital world, boy, get some paper books in some kids' hands, and maybe you could
brother.
pass on some of that love of books that's being kind of lost by a
There,
lot these days.
there's something about holding something tangible in your hands. It is real when it exists in your hands. So I absolutely agree. I think what we can all agree, children need more good books, and they should read more good books where they're being inundated with social media and algorithms, and their little brains are being molded in ways that we can't even envision. Okay, this book is the counter to that. So yeah, let's all read some books together. And hey, Cory, you have a book. You have a book on Amazon. We should just talk about that real quick.
Oh, I talk about that one plenty, but yes, that's the Sovereigntist Handbook. I got up to a number 11 at one point, actually, last spring, but oh boy, you've eclipsed me by a long shot. So, I do encourage children to read it once they turn 18. Stick to Buck the Rainbow Unicorn and some enjoyable data books until you hit adulthood, and then we can bore you and inflame your political minds with my
That's
sort of
right.
pap. But great. Well, thank you for the throwing the plug back my way. And I know Sheila's been a fantastic advocate of my book, probably a better marketer than I am with it.
Oh, she sells that. She loves selling your book, Cory Morgan. Like nothing gives her more pleasure.
Yeah, I'll have to get another case of beer the next time we're at a common function.
Oh, deal.
So thank you very much for writing the book, for coming on to talk about it. And good, you answered the other question. So folks, get out there. It's still there in time for Christmas. You can get one, get it there, a stocking stuffer or wherever for a Christmas gift. No
Yes.
better time to get it. And see one of the commenters, Mavro, saying Buck the Sovereigntist might be the
Ooh.
sequel to this coming up down the road.
That might be our next collab. Cory Morgan is a
Well,
children's book for little separatists. I kind of love this idea.
inspiration can come from anywhere.
That's
All
right.
right. Well, I'll let you go. I hope you guys survive that horrible weather. It sounds like it's coming out Saskatchewan's way for the next day or two.
Meh, it's
And
fine. We're used to it. We're made of tough stuff. And for everybody at the Western Standard and all Western Standard viewers, have a very, very Merry Christmas and wishing you health, wealth, and happiness in 2026.
well, thank you very much. And again, back at you guys at Rebel and everything. Our friendly competitors were more than happy to collaborate with whenever
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, kids. Thanks for having me.
All right. So this one more time, guys, Lee Smurl. And yes, Buck the Rainbow Unicorn, very easy to find online. It's just taken off brilliantly. We need something positive now and then. And that's what this is positive. I'm here for the crabby negative. That's my job. Once in a while, let's break it up. The kids don't need my sour face for this sort of thing. But boy, a really good read. Get Buck the Rainbow Uniform. Rainbow Uniform, boy. Too many words coming out today. Rainbow Unicorn. Grab a copy, have some fun, and explore those messages with your kids. Because again, I like to think I was a decent parent, but as you can imagine, I'm not one of the great ones to talk to on that one-on-one kid level. I wasn't the great dad that way and things like that. Children's books really help. They help. So somebody who's better at communicating that way, and then you can read them together, get through those things, because they're getting mixed messaging. They're not just hearing from you. They're hearing from activists in schools, the teachers assistants, or maybe even other students who just have gotten mismessaging. And you want to correct that at home. That's the role of the home. That's part of the sad politics that's been going on. Teachers unions, others that want to get between parents and their kids. They don't believe the parents should be communicating with the kids. That's part of the battle in Alberta. That's part of what's been going on with Premier Smith, with them saying, well, we can't force the schools to communicate issues that are going on with the children to their parents. Well, why the hell not? It's their parents. The family is paramount. The parents are the final authority. They must be. It's how we've evolved, not teachers unions. And I can hear from people, not every parent is accepting, not every parent, there's bad parents. I understand that. But the vast majority of parents, vast majority, want what is best for their children. Nobody will want what is best for their children more than a parent. And there's nothing more abhorrent than seeing teachers unions who are entrusted with the care of our children for so many hours a week, so many months a year. We entrust them to you. And you put your political crap into our children and then tell us we don't have the right as parents to communicate with our children for it. It's just wrong. And we can't eliminate all of it overnight. Not everybody can afford to put their kids into private schools or has the resources to be able to homeschool. So they have to counter what their children have been getting in the public schools. And books like this are a fantastic way to do it. A great way to communicate directly with the smaller kids because it's a big message. It's a complicated message when you really drill down into it. But this way it simplifies it and starts the conversation. And it's the same sort of fable that we've seen in many other books anyways. They've always just celebrated. Be you. Be you. Don't worry about what somebody else is telling you to be. Talk to your parents about who you are. Think to yourself about who you are. Don't worry about what's considered trendy or what might garner attention and things like that. It's just, and it's, pressing. It's a good time to have this discussion because the world's gone batty. I mean, really, it has. We just this gender confusion lunacy that's been going on. Let's just have those conversations early because kids are impressionable. They're learning. They're being introduced to the world. And it's our job to make sure they have as much good information on their way in as we can possibly give them. And children's books are a great way to do it. And as I said, I'm just a book geek. The kids who start with books like this, there's a much better chance they'll eventually get onto Atlas Shrugged and then the Sovereigntist Handbook when they get a little older. So this is a gateway drug into literacy. So get your kid addicted early with a copy of Buck the Rainbow Unicorn. All right, let's get back to some of the serious stuff. I have to. Going on into modern journalism, modern coverage of things. And it ties a little bit into what I was talking about before with race-based policies and things such as that. There's a gal I've met her a number of times at events. She's been doing great work down in Okotoks, which is a kind of a satellite community south of Calgary. And she's got an online, if you look it up, the Okotoks Observer. And she's just been as a citizen journalist. It's Angelica Ulanova. I'm probably mispronouncing it. I'm terrible with reading out those names, but look up Okotoks Observer. She's been doing FOIPs, Freedom of Information requests. And it turns out in Okotoks, this small bedroom community next to south of Calgary that has nearly no indigenous population, very, very few indigenous people there. Though I've heard a rumor that the chief of the Siksika Reserve has a house there. I don't know. That's a separate issue. But she found that there's an indigenous consultant that this small community is paying $115,000 a year for. Indigenous consultant. In a whole year for $115,000, this consultant was asked through FOIP. She found she defended the mayor against one crazy person who accused her of being a racist, apparently. She arranged a meeting between the town of Okotoks administration and his own grandparents and organized a TP transfer ceremony. And there were no chiefs at the event or something. Just bizarre. But you see, you got to think of this. This is a small community of taxpayers with limited funds, $115,000 a year. That's a lot of money to any of us. I despise when I see people saying, oh, that's just peanuts or this or that when it comes to tax expenditures. No, it's our money. And it's all important to us. And when you think this is just one community in Canada out of thousands, when we want to talk about what I talked earlier about the indigenous industry, here's an example of it. How many thousands of these consultants exist out there, sucking six-figure salaries out of taxpayers for stupid crap like this? This is just one of those drops in a giant bucket of drops in this broken system we have in Canada. And, you try to get rid of these and guess what you're going to be called? You're going to be all of those other things. Either way, just check it out. If you live in the MD or County of Foothills, they changed names. This is another way of wasting taxpayers' money. I live in the County of Foothills. Okotoks is a town in it. And if you're curious about what your council and mayor have been doing down there, check out the Okotoks Observer. She covers other things besides just the indigenous stuff. But it just it put a point on, how bad and entrenched in the mess. Because I'm not exaggerating. I'm really not when I talk about race-based policy sinking the country, because it applies on so many levels in so many places we don't see. That's not even the federal spending. That's not even the provincial spending. It's not even big cities like Calgary spending. It's not high indigenous cities like Battlefords or Winnipeg. It's Okotoks. And they're spending, and that guides the actions of that council. We are really messing ourselves up. Let's look at some of the other news that's been interesting. Skate Canada, you've probably heard about it. Dave mentioned it. So Skate Canada won't come to Alberta for events anymore. They're the ones who run figure skating events. And they won't come because Daniel Smith won't allow men to participate in girls' sports, won't allow men to wave their schwanzes about in change rooms, as has happened with swimmers in the States and other things, because we're supposed to look at men and pretend they're women. And Daniel Smith has said, no, we're not allowing that anymore. So they said, fine, we're not going to come to your province. You know what? Stay out then. This is happening all over the world. It's going the other way. Skate Canada is on the wrong side of history here. The pushback is finally coming. The Olympics are already talking, and they're saying no more of this. No more men pretending to be women to gain an athletic advantage in sports. It's sad that we had to ruin the athletic and sporting experience for so many women for so many years over this idiocy. At least the Olympics are getting there. Other sport organizations are getting there, but leave it to good old Canada to have Skate Canada still standing up and boycotting Alberta for it. This is nuts. It's stupid. Yeah, if you want to see a tweet I made about it and nuts and figure skating, you might want to have a look at that on X, but I won't bother going into that on here. Smith is really lighting things up, though, boy, as the year comes to a close here. On the independence front, of course, Bill 14 went through, and every push is showing there's going to be a referendum next year. There's no getting around it. It's not saying Smith supports a yes vote, but boy, it's clear her government wants that vote to happen, wants that campaign to happen. The petitioning is going to start soon. How it's going to end, I don't know. 6 months, 8 months of solid talking about what the advantages are to staying in Canada for Alberta, and it's a difficult discussion for pro-Canadian people, pro-federalists. Might change a lot of minds before that vote comes. We'll see. But she's talking about other things. Immigration. This one is something else. Dave talked about that. So with new immigrants, if they aren't employed, if they don't qualify, we'll see. People are going to go wild over this. They won't qualify for a whole bunch of the services that are provided in Alberta. And some of the conversation was pretty straightforward. Say, pursue your permanent resident status. Pursue your citizenship. This is targeting well, I'll still use the term for now, Canadians of convenience, the ones who come just to milk things out and don't contribute. Because immigration, and I know some people argue with me on this on the conservative front, that's fine, but I do think it makes us stronger. It makes us much better. People bring skill sets, values, that's a harder one to determine, but there's some great values, and contribute and come into Alberta, whether from other countries, other parts of the country, wherever. But there's a whole lot that don't. There's a whole lot that bring a lot of cultural intolerant baggage. Let's, you get to know who populates our pro-Palestine protest, for example, aside from the blue-haired, locally grown hammerheads. Taking a stance because the province can't control immigration directly. Quebec, they have some degree of say in it, but the reality is people land in Canada, they can remigrate to wherever they please from there. And that's true. But the province controls who gets access to which programs where. So if those programs aren't available for these Canadians of convenience in Alberta, I guess they'll settle somewhere else. That's fine, right? If it's a bad move on Alberta's part, then I guess it'll be to the benefit of Toronto, Montreal. Have at it, guys. But, the backlash is going to be something else. She's really poking into it with this because that's where we're going to talk about where allegedly it's going to be a right for people to show up and begin consuming the local services on what's happening here. And it's a conversation a lot of people are going to have because when we're running short on access to healthcare, educational seats, housing, things like that, the real number is the volume. Well, then we got to find a way to reduce the demand. And I think she's found an interesting way to do it. And the other part is not that anybody should be able to vote in a referendum if they weren't permanent citizens, or at least actual citizens. Some of the people who would be difficult to determine if they were citizens or not are not going to be here anymore because they will move to where the social services are better. It really kind of helps Alberta along that way too, if we're looking at an independence-minded sort of thing. I'll leave off on one more note. Keep watching our Jared Yeager. He's fantastic. He's our BC guy covering out in the West Coast there. Because, boy, speaking of conservatives shooting themselves in the feet, the gong show going on in the conservative movement in BC is just, it's a dark, dark comedy to watch. So the party of two, which they called One BC, is split into two MLAs anyways. And then, the BC Conservative Party has punted Rustad. They're going into a leadership race. it's just a hot mess, unfortunately, because BC really actually has some great conservatives in the interior BC, in the north, and in Vancouver, Lower Mainland. They used to put some great Reform Party MPs in from there. But as conservatives, boy, the only people we like fighting more than liberals are ourselves. Hopefully BC can get it together, because it is a great province and they got a lot to offer if they could just get their affairs in order. So thank you all for tuning in. There's going to be kind of a Christmas special coming out next week. It'll be recorded, but it'll have some newer stuff on the regular schedule as we get through the holidays. Watch for the pipeline tonight. We're going to break down some more issues. And again, like, share, do all that good stuff with our channel so we can spread this great Western Standard word farther. And make sure to get Buck the Rainbow Unicorn while you're getting your subscription to the Western Standard. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the next one.